Um, kind of go through the agenda for tonight. Talk about who we have on. Very good friend of ours and of Complete QB, Bill Fitzgerald, who did a great job this past season at Seton Hall Prep in New Jersey. Spent a number of years at St. Peter's Prep, where I currently coach. Spent some time in the college ranks. Funny story about Coach Fitz, just to throw some shade his way before he gets on with us. Coach Fitz is old enough to have recruited me, which might have put his job in jeopardy. But Coach Fitz recruited me when he was a receiver coach at Utica College in upstate New York. So we're really excited for Coach Fitz to jump on with us tonight. Like I said, did a really good job this past year at Seton Hall. While we have Coach Fitz on here, we're going to talk about obviously quarterback play, the importance of, especially now. We're going to talk about, how are we staying connected with our quarterbacks? What are we asking of our quarterbacks? And then focus on what are we going to have to do to kind of pick up the slack when we do get back together with our teams. I think that's going to be really, really important. And then we're going to jump. We're not going to go to the college game. We're going to spend some time with the NFL. We're going to have a little discussion about some of the offseason moves. There's been quite a few of them. So we're going to get Coach Fitz's perspective on who does he think was the best offseason move. We have some guys coming back that were injured last year, and then obviously, obviously there's a big retirement here in the New Jersey, New York area. So it's going to be interesting to see how some of the young guys step up. And then we're going to wrap up with some drill work. There's some good stuff. Best football related thing. Today was a good opportunity around 4:00. Sean Gleason, the offense coordinator at Rutgers. He had some really interesting stuff. He talked at length about structuring an offense, and then obviously he's been a few places where he's had some success, and kind of the bits and pieces and that he's carried with him. So that was probably the most productive that I've been all week in regards to football.
I can't hear Ryan. Hey, Coach. So I got you back.
Okay.
When I jump to built-in headphones, I can hear them.
I don't have you, Coach. You dropped back out on me.
Okay, I got you. Coach, you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, so sounds like a week well spent for you. I wound up, we know our guys over at Victory Sports. If you check them out on Twitter and all over the place. They had a late schedule change on a couple nights ago. Coach had that from Victory Sports, reached out and said, hey, we want to get you on short notice. Can you come back on the program tomorrow night and live stream with us? So we went on last night and talked about getting your quarterback ready for blitz situation. That's obviously the most stressful situation a quarterback's going to face. When they get out over the ball and they see more guys coming, then we can block. That's the time for a quarterback. I guess all the stuff that he put in the offseason, all the stuff that he put in game week, that's where it really comes. I guess that's the payoff time for them. So we had a good chance to talk with those guys, and what I think that always does for us as coaches is it makes us feel like, hey, we got a chance to refine what we're doing in the offseason, and it's more true this year than ever. And this is for quarterbacks too. Our quarterbacks that are on with us right now. If you don't have a plan for what you're doing to blitz action, now's the time to talk to your coach, because your coach has got a whole lot of extra time right now too. So if you have the opportunity to get with your coach, so if you are at St. Peter's Prep, if you're Taj Bullock, if you're one of the other quarterbacks at St. Peter's, and you don't know what you're doing at every single moment on Blitz, I'm sure you do already, but I want you blowing up Coach O'Flaherty and saying, hey, what do you want me doing in this situation, Coach? You know, jokes aside, it really is important that as a quarterback that you have like a comfort level. It can't just be 70 degrees and sunny all the time where you could just be able to run the play and things work the way you want them to go. There's going to be times where you're outnumbered at the point of attack. There's going to be times where a defense is overloaded. It's just a bad math problem for you. So you got to be able to come up with something that makes it so that you can deal the football, you can protect whatever it is that you're going to do in short order to try and make things go. Is a really obviously a really important thing. If you think back to just quarterback playing experience or whatever coaching experience, you know that those worst moments for you are when you don't have a feeling of confidence. It's like the same feeling I talked to this morning when I was on with the guys from Winterboro, Alabama. We talked about that feeling when you're prepared for a test and you're ready to go and you know everything that's on that test. That alarm clock can't go off early enough for you in the morning because you're ready to jump in and get after it. The same, flip that scenario, and you really didn't put in the time you're supposed to get prepared for the test, and you show up, and it's just like it's a pretty anxiety-filled experience. So we obviously want to take that away for our quarterbacks. Coach, I know before we get to we wanted to run down. We had our audio difficulties at the beginning. We wanted to run down what we want to try and cover tonight. Just doing our weekly check-in, and we heard what you had going for the week and me. Want to talk a little bit about, we're going to touch on NFL quarterbacks because I think we're focused on the quarterbacks here, and so much of what we do involves high school and college quarterbacks, but there's not one of us who's involved in this that's not an NFL fan and just follows what goes on in the league, especially right now where there's no live sports going on. So we're going to talk a little bit about what activities happened with NFL quarterbacks here in the offseason, and you and me will both call our most notable thing that's happened in the NFL offseason for quarterbacks. And then when we get our special guest on, we'll talk with him a little bit about his opinion on that too. We'll grill him. Our special guest tonight is going to be a guy who's just finished his second season as a high school head coach in New Jersey, and that's Coach Bill Fitzgerald. We're excited to have him on. He's a close friend of Complete QB because he's been around us for so many years, and he's done an unbelievable job in taking over that program in West Orange, New Jersey. In just 2 years, he's achieved some really good things. And then we're going to jump in a little bit, Coach, to some recommended drills that we have for guys. Those of you, there's a bunch of people, I think we retooled our YouTube channel a few weeks back, and it's been rapidly picking up subscribers, so it's good. So if you can get there to our YouTube channel, you can subscribe to the videos and make sure that you check out the stuff that we're posting. I know, Coach, you said on the intro that we're posting stuff 2 or 3 times per week. So it's stuff that I think is pretty relevant. What I wanted to focus on tonight was normally when we're in the weight room, think about the activities we're doing in the weight room. For the most part, from a quarterback perspective, there's so much pushing and pressing movements going on in a standard strength and conditioning program. It fits for most people. And obviously that stuff's important for quarterbacks as well. But when you think about it, all of that is creating internal rotation at the shoulder for a quarterback. So there's got to be something that counters that. And no time like the present right now, because you're probably doing a lot of alternative stuff at home. You're probably doing a lot of push-ups. You're probably doing incline, decline push-ups, whatever it is. There's a lot of pressing activity going on. And so we want to counter that with some external rotation stuff, and band pulls are the best way to do it. It's cheap, it's easy. If you're an apartment dweller or you're in a place that doesn't have a whole lot of space, being able to use bands is a good tight quarters activity that'll get you, that I think will get you just able to incorporate external rotation movements, which is a really good one too. Coach, have you checked out the band videos that we posted on the Complete QB YouTube site, Coach Flaherty? All right.
It's good stuff. Like you said, I think...
Coach, is it part of your morning routine? That's what I want to know. When you wake up.
Yeah, you know what? I started to incorporate it right after the 5-mile run around the lake. But
that's great.
Guys get so tied up into, into your traditional, weight room style lifts, and some of this stuff think about how specific we've gotten into just coaching certain positions, and we're starting to see how that carries over into the weight room. So I think it's, I got my pencil ready to go. I already took down a few notes that you mentioned tonight. So it's good stuff.
Good, excellent, man. So so Coach, let's jump into our NFL QB discussion. I want to know from your perspective what has been the most notable quarterback related thing that's happened in the offseason, whether it's personnel, whatever it is in the offseason. I have one. It's probably not too hard to guess what's on my mind, but go ahead.
I refuse to talk about it.
Yeah.
I'll talk about personnel, and I'm not going to mention that guy. I don't care what division he's in now. It's still a nightmare. I said in the intro when we were going to talk about NFL quarterbacks. You know, we have a guy retiring in this area that's going to give a young guy a big shot here in a big market. I believe Roethlisberger will be coming back. Obviously, if he stays healthy. And then the two personnel changes, so to say, would be Nick Foles and Phillip Rivers.
No doubt.
I think Nick Foles made his way over to the Chicago Bears. And I also think Mitchell Trubisky's option did not get picked up.
Correct.
So Nick Foles, as a starter, I think he's like 26 and 22.
Yep.
Something like that. So it's not great. It's over 500, but he'll be playing with a pretty good defense. And then Phillip Rivers. How can you not be if you're a quarterback guy? I don't know how you're not a fan of Phillip Rivers.
No doubt.
He throws the ball wherever he wants. Might not be to the right team, but he lets it rip.
Absolutely, that's for sure. Now, one of the things that I have, it's on my mind. So lifelong New England Patriots fan, right, Coach? So one of the things for me is there was a lot of speculation about what the Patriots were going to try and do to get us to get the 6-time world champion New England Patriots a setup for the future with quarterback, and there were a couple beyond serviceable, like former Pro Bowl quarterbacks that still have some mileage left, I think, that were available. The most notable thing for me, I think, in the offseason was the fact that the Patriots didn't make a move to grab anybody of note, I should say, in the early rounds of the draft, and they haven't leapt to try and include a free agent in their plans right now. They re-signed Hoyer, and I think just really the inactivity is probably the most notable thing in that they allowed Jarrett Stidham, I think, to kind of they kind of stood on their hand, if we're talking casino parlance here, Coach, and just said that they're going to give this guy a chance. And that really struck me as notable because everybody thinks of Belichick as a defensive-minded guy, and that's the truth that he is. But he's got a pretty good track record on taking a chance on a young guy, and that was, he did it 20 years ago, and the results were pretty good. And I think that there's a pretty good sign for at least his level of confidence that he has in the potential for Jarrett Stidham to take over. So, Coach, if you had to make a guess now, would you think that Jarrett Stidham's a guy who can get it done?
Yeah, I think he's got the momentum. Obviously, I don't follow the Patriots as well as you do, but just reading up on some of the stuff, I think he's got the momentum.
Yep.
And I think Belichick has he's proven that he could win without Brady.
No.
Go back a few years, right? Went 11-5. Who's the quarterback then, Coach?
Coach, it was Matt Castle.
That's right.
Guy with the distinction. I don't believe Matt Castle started a college game, Coach.
That's impressive.
It's unheard of. It's amazing to play.
A high school quarterback like that too.
Absolutely, right. Coach. And we'll go way back. And see how good your memory is. Brazen Zubik was a non-starter in high school and wound up going to the University of Rochester. He's a former complete QB trainee and he wound up setting the school record for career completion percentage over 64%. Again, which is just it's unheard of, and it's pretty impressive. The second thing that stood out to me about NFL quarterback comings and goings was the fact that the Packers just decided that they wanted to draft a quarterback, and it's I think kind of taking the league by storm now is that teams are just saying, this is our intention, this is how it's going to go. There was a lot of rookie contracts that you talked about that just didn't get renewed. Didn't get options picked up. So you got guys going into the final year of their rookie deal, and teams are just declaring their hand now and saying that we're not going to pick up the fifth year. And it's a really unique scenario, I think, because normally you'd be worried about thinking as a high school or college coach, when some kind of like a sign of a lack of commitment to a particular player, you worry about that player not being as much a part of the program and being as productive as they potentially could be, being a bad locker room guy, all those sorts of things, But that's not really in the NFL. It's obviously a different animal because these guys are doing it to put money in the bank, and so the motivation, I think, probably shifts a little bit from being a team guy as much, and also now thinking I got to fight for my life to get the next contract. And that's obviously always a part of professional sports, but I think it's especially so right now because of the way that we're seeing these contract options not being picked up. The fact that the Packers signed or drafted a quarterback, and a pretty capable one at that, is really unique. You saw that Brett Favre immediately came out and said this is going to be bad. Aaron Rodgers is going to wind up going elsewhere. He's going to want to finish his career somewhere else. I wouldn't underestimate the professionalism of somebody like Aaron Rodgers. These guys have a way of, these guys who play at a really elite level. You've seen it with Brady. It's probably pretty clear to everybody right now that it wasn't the happiest marriage in the world between or among, in particular, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, and probably some of the things with the New England Patriot way that Brady probably just over the years that started to wear. And it doesn't have to be a negative toward anybody involved in the situation. It's just it becomes kind of a burden, I think, operating in that environment where it's so rigid for so long. But Brady managed to, band-aid it up, and they've had really, really high-level recent success. I would expect something of a similar level of like professionalism and competency from Aaron Rodgers, and he obviously has a good young coach in Matt LaFleur there as well. What's your thought on Aaron Rodgers sticking around, moving on, whatever it's going to be? Where's your head at on that one?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Favre, although he played elsewhere, stuck around for a little bit, and even if Aaron Rodgers can stick around, and it might not be the worst thing in the world. If he's there 3 or 4 years. And, I know a lot of rules are protecting the quarterbacks nowadays, but, it doesn't matter what level you're at. You're 4 seconds away.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Obviously, just on the professional side, the business side of things, it might not look good, but you got to prioritize within your organization of where is what's important. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, this is how we're going to do things. You just got to hope that they could, if hopefully they're on the same page with Aaron Rodgers in terms of, this is the plan, and obviously he's pretty good. So
figure out a way, right?
Yeah.
Probably figure out a way. Guys, let us know in the chat. I see we got a pretty good viewership right now. We got viewership is pretty strong right now. Go ahead and let us know in the chat, guys, if you feel like Packers drafting a quarterback was a good move. Drop some comments in there and tell us, do you think it's a good thing? You think it's a bad thing? Should the Packers have opted to just continue to ride it out and not make their franchise and one of their all-time great quarterbacks feel like he was expendable, if as some people are kind of in a year or two is expendable, as some people are kind of interpreting from the situation. Let us know in the chat if you think that that's something that the Packers were wise to do or not. Now, Coach, as I said, we've got I think a split here. Some of the places that we're looking around the country are going to start getting back into it. And one of the things that I think we got to emphasize for our quarterbacks as we shift gears back to kind of the guys who are living and breathing this training as high school and college quarterbacks who are separate from their programs right now. Want to talk to you a little bit about what are the things that should be on your mind. Obviously, strength training is important. Obviously, the opportunity to get out and stretch is important, but we can't. And our friend Eric DeGotti at One Human Performance always talks to us about the concept of mobility, how motor control and stability fit in with what a quarterback is doing. So, guys, if you don't have some sort of mobility program that's going on right now with your team, if you're not doing stuff over Zoom or whatever, those group workouts, make sure that you're incorporating. What do I mean by that? It means that those injuries that typically happen as non-contact injuries. So it wasn't a collision where two guys were head-to-head and something bad happened, but instead it's something where somebody goes to plant and cut and that sort of thing. This is the time, these are the type of scenarios that are like the breeding ground for those type of injuries. So I want to make sure that everybody in the Complete QB family and listening audience and viewership is really conscious about what that means. That it's really important to not think and not have the mentality that when this thing is lifted and we can get out there with our teams again and we have a couple weeks to get going, that it's just flip the switch, work out for a couple weeks and be ready to go full game speed. It's just not how things operate. It's certainly not how the human body operates. And even further, for guys that are putting in a lot of effort to train and do a lot of home strength training right now and all of that, it's just not, you're still going through the other components of, which is the skill-based training, like working your drops and throwing your footballs, and then your strength-based component, which is all the different movements for different body parts and all of that. But where the chances are the complementary stuff that your strength and conditioning coach had you doing, whether it's like, the hop outs and the different types of activities where you have to do explosive movements and then come to deceleration and a point of balance and all that. If you're not doing that stuff now, the potential down the line is that when you get back in full go, getting ready to play live opponents and you're going full speed in practice, the opportunity for non-contact injuries is there. And so we got to make sure that stuff is happening. Coach, how's it been? What's your experience been so far with your guys? What's the excitement level been for your guys? Just not even just quarterbacks, but in general, how's the have you seen the intensity level maintain? Have you seen when there's lulls? What are you guys doing to try to pick those guys up? What's it been? What's the experience been for you so far with your team?
Yeah, and I think we touched on in a few conversations of, I think our kids kind of understand what's going on in terms of, why we can't be together and all that stuff. But they're really excited. It's any little football that we could get to them.
Yeah.
Whether it's huddle or whatever you're using, just to check in with guys. It's they know we're gonna get back together, sooner or later. And they've really held themselves accountable.
That's good.
Working in closed quarters and while practicing social distancing and all that stuff. So it's been new, but it's like anything else. It's you're going into week 4 and you're playing the best team on your schedule. It's a challenge, and that's kind of what we're in right now. This is a challenge, and
for sure.
With people who have things going on, and whether it's family or friends or people who've gotten sick, football kind of serves as that that escape from that, kind of taken away from their schoolwork for a few minutes and from what they're seeing on the news. And so every opportunity we get to talk with our guys, it's been a positive one.
Mm-hmm. Good, man. Yeah, I think that's an important thing right now. I think that maintaining, it's one thing to, the most overused word probably in team sports and football in particular right now is probably culture, but that is what it is, and that's what you try to reinforce when you're in person, and it's a challenge and it's different remotely. The one thing I will say is the great equalizer that everybody's playing on a level playing field. For example, in the state of New Jersey, right now there's nobody that's allowed to get together in a formal way with their team, bringing everybody together. So we're all dealt with the same kind of restrictions right now. So that in that sense, it's a pretty level playing field. so as we get, and we still have Coach Bill Fitzgerald in the green room. He's a bit of a diva. We still have him in makeup and wardrobe coach. He'll be with us soon. But for right now, just want to talk a little bit about the recruiting piece of things and how what it's been for you so far, and for me from a high school coach perspective. And we probably have a little bit of a unique approach and perspective to it because not only do we coach our own respective high school programs, we've also got guys that we train and work with us at Complete QB and that sort of thing. I spoke with probably at about 7:30 tonight. I spoke with a coach who's at a big FCS conference, and he's it's one of those things that is a unique situation in terms of recruiting, and remembering that we're still dealing with the most unique position in all of sports. There really is only one of them. Of course, there's occasional times where you'll need a backup quarterback. For the most part, it's usually the guy who plays for a team. And so the recruiting perspective, just under the best of circumstances, the recruiting experience is unique to quarterbacks. Now, it's become even more so that way because we don't know what the short-term future holds. I know that some of my concerns, just as a high school coach and a guy who trains quarterbacks, in talking with athletes, in talking with parents as they go through the recruiting cycle, we don't know what the fallout's going to be at some of those non-major revenues, some of those non-Power 5 programs, what the implications could be in the short term, maybe for a year, in terms of scholarship availability, like if schools in conferences will get waivers from the NCAA to be able to say, hey, we could reduce scholarships for a year or two, The thing that is probably more likely to happen is, I don't know if it'll be that dramatic, it'll be that intense, but what I'm seeing now, Coach, and you're probably picking up on this too, is there are a flood of offers coming from select college programs to some positions. And as a result, because some college staffs are feeling a little bit panicked, hey, we got to get on this guy early, a guy that they probably would have taken the summer to evaluate in the summer camp season. Now they don't have the opportunity to do that, so they're making offers early. Downstream, you look at the families and the quarterbacks who are thinking, now what's going to happen? What's the future's uncertain. What if something really bad happens and we have a shortened season? On top of there being no camps, there's a shortened season, or God forbid, no season. So we got to go ahead and commit right now. So we're seeing this kind of dysfunctional recruiting cycle that's going on, where teams are probably showing the hand a little bit early, and then as a result, the quarterbacks also feel like, or the athletes in general feel like, we got to commit early to make sure that we have something. I think you look a little bit down the road, what if things do go back to normal very quickly and you've got all these committed players to programs that maybe didn't want them as bad as they let on initially, but they just wanted to make sure that they had a competent quarterback, they had a competent signee or commitment. I think it shapes up for what could be kind of a messy situation. What do you think your advice would be right now to those families? And I know you're going through it right now with your class of 21 quarterback, in terms of, like, he's probably a different kind of scenario because he's got a whole bunch of offers and he's got a pick of a lot of good places. So, but what's your advice to the typical high school quarterback and their families as they're going into, let's say, especially those class of 21, those seniors to be? What's your thought and your advice for them as they deal with this?
Yeah, I think the quarterback, if we just backtrack to a normal recruiting period, the quarterback position is
I'm ready for him now.
That there's not a whole lot of offers getting thrown out at the quarterback position. Coaches are very, very specific with the type of quarterback they want, and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So there wasn't a lot then. So now we get into a situation where the evaluation period doesn't exist. It's I don't know. I don't know exactly what is going to happen. So I think just being completely honest with families, specifically quarterback families, wet. One, is it committable?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can look up the numbers, and there's coach staffs that have offered 400 kids.
Sure.
Not saying that they're all quarterbacks, but it's really, really interesting to see what the quarterbacks and what offers will eventually come their way. So I think one, being honest with the family, saying, hey, if you get an offer, make sure it's committable,
No doubt.
and then you need to really evaluate, if nothing else comes my way, am I committing, or what's my plan
Yep.
thereafter?
No doubt. I agree with that.
Especially if you're an FBS type of kid who slips through the cracks, FCS schools,
Yep.
They're kind of waiting for the kids to fall.
Absolutely.
If they see a kid with an FBS offer, a lot of the FCSs will kind of, get, pushed away a little bit.
Coach, I'm gonna pause you there just for a second. So I just got a phone call from Bill Fitzgerald's agent, and he was furious that we kept Coach Fitzgerald waiting this long, because he's a rising star in the coaching ranks. I guess Coach Fitzgerald was in his trailer and he couldn't decide if it was going to be the white visor, if it was going to be the blue visor. He settled on the navy blue. I think he looks great. Welcome to Complete QB Live. We got Bill Fitzgerald from Seton Hall in beautiful New Jersey. Coach, how's it going tonight?
It's going great. Great to be with you guys.
All right. That's excellent. I like the look in the background. It looks like there's the beach scene going on. I like the decor in the background. I don't know if it compares to a Slick Rick poster in the back, Coach, but it does look good, man. And we appreciate you being on.
I'll tell you what, first thing, great to be with you guys. I hope everybody's doing well and everybody's safe, and praying for everybody who's dealing with this pandemic. You guys have done a great job. You the first drive of the game, you were trying to start off the audio a little bit struggling, and you guys have done a great job recovering. You guys have a show going on YouTube right now. There's a show going on my phone with all the stuff that was going on in the background. A lot of a couple of my college teammates, were giving you props for your background there, Chris.
I appreciate that. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And Coach, I'll be honest with you, I'm a little scared to look at the cell phone, because I can imagine what our collective coaching buddies got waiting for me on the group texts about our technical difficulties to start. But hey, it's live TV. Let's jump into it with you, Coach. So a little background on you. You've gone now 2 seasons. You were a long time. You were with Coach O'Flaherty and Coach Hansen at St. Peter's Prep, which has become really a regional and national power over the years. And you were a big part of that. You're an alum, and you played there. And you spent some time coaching in college, and you came back to rejoin the staff, and you became the offensive coordinator, had a lot of success. And then you had an opportunity to go to a program that's again one of the bigger schools in New Jersey. Hadn't had a ton of big time success very recently, but they were building something there. I think you came in at a really good time for you to kind of like galvanize what was going on in the program. And listen, nobody's a bigger cheerleader for you than Coach O'Flaherty and myself, but I was really impressed with what you were able to do the last couple of years. You were nearly 500 your first season, and then last year kind of turned the New Jersey football world on their ear. You had a victory late October over the number 2 ranked team in the state, on your way to an 8-2 season. We were pulling for you there in the playoffs. You lost the heartbreaker there at the end. But I think you're trending in the right direction, as they say, Coach. Good things are happening. How's your experience been so far at Seton Hall first 2 years?
It's been tremendous. Obviously, the success that we had at St. Peter's, made me an attractive person to become a head coach there. There's so many parallels from an academic standpoint and tradition standpoint that I think the transition was seamless in a lot of ways. Just like we start off, there's going to be some struggles, and we hit those.
Yep.
But number one, we had a tremendous staff that helped me along the way. Really, a lot of those guys, I asked to come on.
Mm-hmm.
In St. Tom, Colorado, and then had some guys in the building, John Murphy and Max Ruiz. I know there's a lot of Seton Hall Prep alum on this. Those guys, those 4 guys were critical.
Yep.
In our development in the first year, and bought into not only once from the whole staff that we put together, and we saw some really, really great success, and we had some good players for sure. We're going to have 3 guys that are going to be playing in Division I, 1A football, and a couple guys in FCS, and other guys sprinkled around in the other divisions. So we definitely had some talent, but they bought into the things that we said, and they kind of took it over. So those guys, the players, deserve all the credit.
Sure. All right. Well, and you've obviously we've had the opportunity to see you up close and personal because just even our ball club we've scrimmaged you the last couple of years, and just to see the kind of the progress that's been made in a short space of time has been interesting. Two things I'm going to tell you real quick. You see our engineer, the capable Renee, has come in here quite a few times during our early technical difficulties. She wants you to speak a little louder. We can't mic things that we can't mic your location, so just project that voice. You might have to go to football coach mode for us there, Coach. All right. And also anybody.
I can do that.
There we go. I love it. Anybody who wants to ask questions in the chat, please please let us know. They're letting us know.
The people that I invited to watch.
They're letting us know in the chat that they're having difficulty hearing you. So you just go ahead and elevate. If anybody has questions in the chat, they can get them to us, and we'll see. We'll do our best to get them to Coach Fitz. Coach, one of the things that is kind of interesting to me is what we're dealing with right now. Just a real quick one on this. What do you think quarterbacks are missing the most right now during this quarantine period? Like if there's one or two things you could highlight that you really feel that they're missing out on right now.
Well, I just think FaceTime with the team. This is a great time in the weight room and getting out on the track. Running around a little bit, and it's the first chance that a newcomer who's going to have a chance to take over a team is going to be evaluated not only by the coaches but more importantly by his teammates.
Yep.
And then a guy who's maybe has been a starter for a year or so. That's his time to take over, and he can really really take over the reins from a leadership standpoint. I think that's a tough thing.
Yep.
But you can't control that, and you got to be able to adapt.
Absolutely.
So, you got to do it remotely, and if it's that FaceTime with your teammates,
yep.
If it's getting on Zoom and FaceTime your guys, or just text messages to make sure everybody's handling their academics and staying in shape.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that we're missing is the FaceTime.
I would agree with you on that. I think that whole aspect of a lot of times, especially if you have a guy, in your case, you got a senior starter who's graduating. And now there's obviously a time where you got to go through and figure out who's the next guy, or even teams that know who the next guy is. There's still a process where you have to go through of that, I guess, just getting acclimated to the way that guy behaves, the way that he communicates with his teammates. Is he a guy that you have to chase for some things early on just because he doesn't know? Does he do it innately? Is he able to do positive things for you? I just think it's a really unique scenario on its own in the best of times. But now the fact that we're dealing with quarantine, it becomes an even greater challenge. Now for you, Bill and Coach O'Flaherty, I know sometimes I hog the mic, so feel free to jump in anytime you want. But I say I got a big ego, Coach Fitz, even bigger than yours, Coach Fitz. I got to say I got a pretty big ego. So one of the things that about your resume is you've coached a lot of guys that have gone on to play really big time places, a lot of FBS quarterbacks, Power 5 quarterbacks. So you've had the opportunity to be around guys who are high achievers. But I'm sure you coach high school football, Coach. You've been around guys who probably underachieve, and that happens. We see that sometimes. What do you think were the common traits that ran through each of those guys? Because I know we have a lot of quarterbacks on here tonight. We got quarterback dads, we got coaches. What are some of the common traits on the take whichever one you want first? You've got guys who are underachievers, the serial underachievers, even though, especially the guys who are blessed maybe with the physical tools, but never seem to see it translate. And then the guys who are, are able to perform at a level commensurate with their ability, or maybe even above their ability. What are the common traits you see run through one group and then the common traits in the other group?
Well, I think one thing, you kind of either have it or you don't initially, but you can develop it, is the ability to take constructive criticism, the ability to take hard coaching.
Yep.
I think that, for a freshman quarterback coming in who may have been a great Pop Warner.
Can I raise his audio in here?
I think that's something that he's going to get, he's going to have to get adjusted to. Be coached a little bit harder. He's going to be more details.
Got it.
They can hear Ryan, not great.
Longer you go into high school career and more scrutiny. You're going to have more people in the stands. You're going to have things written about you in the paper, and everybody's going to see your scores. And in this day of social media, anybody can put anything up there. So how you deal with that is a critical component. And some guys are able to handle the constructive criticism and block it out. And
Yep.
and also take the hard coaching and not listen to how the coach says it, but listen to the message. I think that's a really, really important thing for somebody who really wants to be good at this position.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think Coach O'Flaherty and I have talked about a lot about that as well. That there's some stuff that that are the building blocks when you identify. When you see a young quarterback the first time, you're like, all right, this guy, he has that it. And then the big parts, as you alluded to, is that does he have the mental aspect? Is he the guy that, an expression I always like to use with guys is that it's not enough to just do your job, especially in this position, but you got to be the guy who can reach behind and pull the next guy forward, and have that juice, have that respect among your teammates. That some guys do it and they look at him sideways. Some guys do it and they're like, they just fall in line. And that there's part of that intangible, that ability to lead, that I think is really important. Coach, I want to know we're in quarantine now, and it's just a change in life for everybody. And I need you to speak up a little bit, Coach. I apologize. I owe you dinner for this one. You're done yelling here for us, but I just need you to get close. And some folks are still having a hard time hearing you. We'll get, next time you're on Complete QB Live, we'll have it sorted out. I promise, Coach. Okay. But I want to know, what's been your go-to quarantine meal so far, Coach? What are you chefing up in the Fitzgerald household these days? And I'm not talking about the days that you stop by the parents' house and you get a cheapie when someone else is cooking. I want to know, what are you cooking for yourself that's been your go-to, Coach?
I would probably have to say turkey chili.
Turkey chili, Coach. Coach, if I can you get that for me? Coach, if I am able to make it by North Jersey by your place, could you leave some on the front porch and I'll test it and we'll rate it? We're gonna be doing some.
Definitely we can do that.
I appreciate that, man. I'm not a big microwave guy, so not plastic. I'd appreciate a glass casserole when you do that, Coach, please. Okay. Now we're gonna do some fun features here on Complete QB Live, and one of them may be rating the coach's favorite dish. Coach O'Flaherty, what's yours? What's your go-to quarantine meal so far?
Oh wow. Well, I've been having this debate going back and forth. I've been not eating meat. I gave up meat for Lent, and it kind of carried over and kind of went back. Being up near the water, felt like felt like summer. There's a couple cheeseburgers thrown around, but I don't know. My wife's the cook, and she does a really good job. So,
Coach, I'm going to give you a second. I'm going to give you a second to think about it, Coach, because I'm going to jump right in with mine. Okay, and I'm going to tell you what mine is. So I've gotten on the grass-fed beef kick, Coach. Okay. Now I know what you're thinking, Coach. How do you maintain that level of muscularity, that build? Like, what's one of your secrets? So the secret is the grass-fed beef lately has been really good for me. I've been doing the workouts with the team, so I've found that I need a higher level of caloric intake nowadays. So the grass-fed beef has been very good. Big on I'm not much of a cook, but one of the things that I've been doing is putting together maybe the penne or the rigatoni with white wine, cream, and lemon sauce with chunks of the chicken breast and broccoli. All right. So once we get through all this, guys, I will whip that up for you guys at some point here. Okay. It's got pretty good reviews in the Johnston household, so I'm very excited about it. Coach Fitzgerald, Bill, I'm going to have you jump back to something we talked about while you were still in the green room, and that most exciting or most notable off-season move or lack of moves related to the quarterback position. Is there one or two things that have stood out to you so far in the off-season that are of note for you?
Well, you know that there's no off-season for us as coaches.
No doubt.
But since we're in quarantine, having the ability to kind of look at the draft a little bit and kind of get caught up on that stuff. The guy that I think is really intriguing is Justin Herbert. That the Chargers picked up, and I didn't know a ton about him. Those games are on late on Saturday nights, and we're finishing our game and then getting ready to do, or even starting to watch film at that point for the next opponent. So I didn't see a ton of him, but I looked at him. He's good. He can run and throw. I think he's got a lot of upside. I think he's got a lot of physical attributes. I don't know a ton about him, but I just think, looking at his film, I think he's really impressive, and he's going to a great situation there. He's going to have an opportunity at some point, probably pretty early, to play.
I agree. Yeah, I think you're there, and it's something we were able to chime in, both Coach and I. Coach, we got a question in the chat from Michael G. He said, "I'd like to hear." You talked a little bit about this, but I'd like to hear how Coach Fitz is keeping his team focused in a new virtual world that we're living in. So obviously, you had some priorities as you came in, and maybe if you want to just like talk about the two. You obviously had priorities 2 years ago when you took over a Seton Hall program, and now what's in a lot of ways I feel like this is, this is uncharted territory for us. That there's no manual for how you manage coaching football through a pandemic, and not having access to your guys. And I know you touched on some of these themes, but what's been you think the thing that's been the successes that you have had here the last couple months? What do you think, with the focus and the priority, what's that been for you so far?
Well, I think it's one, making sure the kids are okay right now.
Yeah.
A lot of people are able to deal with things differently. Some of our guys have kind of, it's been a pretty seamless transition. They can learn online. They're doing their work. They're doing a great job. Other guys, they need a little bit more help. So I want them to know, and they do know, that I'm available in any way if I need to help them academically.
Yeah.
Or get them the help that they need, technologically or tutor-wise, or if it's reading a paper, we can do that, or push them to the right people that can help them.
No.
So that's the number one thing, that they know that I'm available. We reach out constantly, daily. There's messages coming from me, updates, motivational stuff.
Yep.
And then we have check-ins all the time. We have meetings and where we get everybody together and just kind of talk and go over some things that are important for program development. So
Yeah.
we've done a really good job, I think, our staff, of making sure that everybody's taken care of. And now we're kind of getting towards the end of school, and now we're gonna be waiting to see what's going to happen and how the schedule for the summer or beyond is gonna change, because it is going to change in some way.
Yeah.
So we got to be ready to adapt, and we'll do that.
Sure. One of the things that I've, when Coach and I talked about it too, is that it's because of the unusual nature of the situation right now, that just being in tune, I think, personally, what's going on in people's lives. I know that Coach has spoken he spoke for the New Jersey Football Coaches Association a couple weeks ago. Coach O'Flaherty did. I know that you sat in on that session, and Coach has done some other speaking, and I've been able to do some virtual clinics. And it's funny, but as you see questions come through in chat rooms during those presentations, a lot of the stuff is, and most of my presentations have been on quarterback technique, quarterback passing mechanics, those sorts of things. And a lot of the questions that come through are still like, what are you doing to keep guys locked in right now? How are you keeping them from, Zoom fatigue's become a very real thing now for us, how are you keeping them sharp with that? And so I think that's a really important thing to not forget about. Coach and I talked a little bit earlier, Coach Fitz, about the best thing that we did all week. I said probably the best thing that I did all week, and I'll mention this again quickly for your benefit, was the opportunity I got asked to do a clinic the night before. 2 nights ago, I got asked to do a clinic last night because of a late schedule change that they had with Victory Sports. And so I put together a presentation on dealing with blitz pickup, and how we can help our quarterback get to some level of like comfort in what they're doing. And that resonated with me. Just having it forced me to sit back and reevaluate, what am I doing in this situation, and how can I get better at it? What have I not done well enough last time? I've had a lot of chance to watch film. So this week, from a football perspective, over the last 7 days, what's been the best thing that you've been involved? What's the thing that was most notable for you? Whether it was reading, watching something, attending something, what's it been?
It was watching your clinic.
Okay. Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Coach, if you put privately in the chat your address, I'll email you an autographed copy of the presentation, Coach. All right.
It was a great clinic. It was broken down extremely well. We actually had some of our quarterbacks that were in on it as well. That they looked at it. I thought you did a great job, and you spent a lot of time on a real detailed aspect of the game and a detailed aspect of quarterback play. I think I got a lot out of it. It reaffirmed a lot of things, and it picked up a few things as well. And our quarterbacks will hear about that going forward.
All right, great. Well, we appreciate that for sure. And Coach, we want to make sure that we get you back here again sometime, for sure, because we had a lot of fun talking with you, and we'll get some of the pioneering issues on the technical side that we ran into tonight. We'll make sure that we get those. We'll get our highly paid tech team.
I keep getting messages. I got to move closer to the computer.
You too.
I'm gonna be inside the computer if I'm any closer.
Coach, I hope you've been watching what you eat. You're gonna be sitting on that keyboard before long, man. We got it. So I'll tell you this. So in honor of Bill Fitzgerald being on with us tonight, we're gonna talk. Coach, you're a lifelong Jets fan, correct?
Yes.
All right.
So you know I'm a loyal person.
That is. You've seen him through. And Coach O'Flaherty as well. Two things I want to point out. Number one, I think that Coach O'Flaherty is channeling a young Matt Patricia. How do you feel about that? Show the pencil. Coach, do me a favor, Coach O'Flaherty. Can I just get can I get the pencil? Can I get the pencil?
That was it's there. It was
Look at that.
On a staff meeting last week. One of my receiver coaches said, Coach, do me a favor, put the pencil in your ear. And he goes, that's right. And then sent me a picture of Matt Patricia. So I'm all for it.
I love it.
For it.
I love it. All right.
Hopefully I can make the money he's making one day.
Yeah, that would be nice, Coach. That would be nice. We could upgrade some of this technological stuff and not have any tech issues at the beginning of Complete QB Live. I'll be fired up, man.
Yeah,
now,
I think I just take Renee. I'm going to take Renee and Coach Fitz with me.
Yeah.
We might cut you out.
And I'll be here still trying to figure out how to do a live stream the right way. So Coach Fitz, we're going to get you back. But tonight's trivia question for you, Coach Fitz, is going to be pretty simple. Number one, I want to ask everybody who's been on board, thank you so much for your patience. Please make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Complete QB Videos. Get over to Twitter at Complete QB, Facebook's at Complete QB, and then on Instagram it's at Complete QB 2000. Please go ahead and follow or like or do whatever on the appropriate action on the platform. What I'd like to do is, in honor of you, Coach, tonight's trivia question, where we do a giveaway, is going to be in honor of your favorite team in the NFL, okay? So once upon a time, the New York Jets were preceded by a different franchise name. Before it was the New York Jets, it was the New York what? First person answers correctly in the chat, I'll call them out, and we'll get you a nice little Complete QB prize pack that'll go out to you. So if we can get an answer for that in the chat, the answer of the team before the New York Jets. And Coach O'Flaherty's a little on the young side. I hope he knows this one. We'll find out. Don't blow the answer now, Coach, if you do know it. But I'll be interested to know.
I know it.
Coach Fitz, a couple of the things that we got coming up in the next few weeks is we're gonna have some really good guests. Tough to follow a legend like Bill Fitzgerald, but we're gonna have some really good. Thomas Canigliaro, congratulations! You're the first one. Get it for us. Thomas, go ahead and do me a favor and just DM us privately. I want to know shirt size and I want to know your mailing address, please, Thomas, so we get you out that prize. Good job, buddy. So, Coach, what we'll be doing is we'll be talking to a variety of people. Sometimes it'll be an active player. Sometimes it'll be a former player. Sometimes it'll be a college coach, a high school coach. We're going to try to talk to folks in the quarterback world that bring a different thing to it, Coach. And I think we've obviously got an easy back and forth with you, and we love what you bring to it. So we'd like to pull you in sometimes just maybe, hey, there's 4 boxes on the screen for a reason, Coach Fitz. Maybe we just make that one there that's your you could be like the guys on Hollywood Squares that drop in a lot, you know what I mean, and just help out on hosting.
Guinea pig.
Absolutely. Coach, but you did an unbelievable job in the comments. Coach, I want to let you know, Coach O'Flaherty, I got to say, there's a guy here, he must be a troublemaker named Brian Capriola, called you the worst vegan ever, Coach O'Flaherty. So you're going to have to take that up with him sometime soon, okay? But I'll tell you what, people were killing us on the technical stuff, but they were raving about Coach Fitz and Coach O'Flaherty. Coach O'Flaherty's going to get a little something extra in the Christmas envelope because he really did the old stretch routine for us as we got the tech stuff up and running. But I really do. I want to just thank you, Coach Fitz. Any thoughts before you sign off for us here tonight, Coach Fitz?
Well, I'm just happy to be with you guys and reiterate what you said about subscribing to the channel. I mean, Complete QB does a tremendous job, and I think any quarterback and any parent who wants to get better really should take a look at you guys and what you do.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate that, and hopefully one of these days we'll get you on the blog, which you can find at CompleteQB.com, the In the Pocket blog. I'd like to get a guest shot from Coach, because Coach, I didn't talk about this yet. We'll talk about it later another time. I think one of your strengths is, I really believe this, is the ability to take what personnel has been given to you, and this is not me just being nice to you on camera, Coach. I think you do a really good job with identifying who you have and what you have and making the pieces fit. which for my money is more important than what you can draw up on scheme and all that. And your scheme is great, but I think you find a way to make the pieces fit. So I appreciate that. Coach O'Flaherty, anything from you? Any parting shots from you?
No, really appreciate Coach Fitz joining us. I'm sure this conversation is going to carry over to a nice group text message, and I'm looking forward to it. And like you said, this is just getting off the ground here, and it's going to be hard to get somebody like Coach Fitz for the coming weeks, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
No doubt. All right. Well, listen, everybody who tuned in, I appreciate it. There's a whole lot of folks. We're up over an hour. We just kept time flew by for us. Look forward to having you guys with us. Make sure you follow us on all our platforms. Had a lot of fun. Coaches, thank you for your time tonight. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, that meeting is ended. Oh.